I'm Bernita Reed. I'm the project documentarian and oral historian for the Community-Driven Archives Project. And this is a webinar for conducting oral history interviews. And we're going to get started. This is to demystify oral history interviews for you and to also empower you to feel comfortable with doing them. An outline of the session is we'll briefly go through what's in the archivist in a backpack, the purpose of doing oral history interviews, how to conduct it. There'll be a few audio examples of oral history interviews so that you can actually hear some of the problems that you encounter and how to correct it. And then we'll go through some of the tools that can be used for conducting oral history interviews. Briefly on those, because we do have the guides for you that you can use. And then we'll have time also for some ending questions. And I always ask this, how many times have you heard someone say, I wish I had asked this person or that for information while they were living? And this is something that we all say, and we can't go back to get that information, but we can capture what is possible now and preserve that for the future. So think about those people in your life that you want to still get their interview. Think about the people in the community that their oral history interviews need to be captured, and just start doing them. The archivist in a backpack idea was something that we came up with through the Community-Driven Archives Project. And it contains the tools that you need for an oral history interview. One of the packs contains this material, which is the Zoom recorder, a packet of field notes, and the field notes are intended to jot down information about the place, why it was done, noise, things that a future researcher would want to know about the interview to help them understand what occurred and why, and so that they'll understand better. It also has the first set of black backpacks had a book called Catching Stories. That's how to conduct oral history interviews. And this is not in all of the backpacks. Some of the other backpacks contain more of an archival kit, which contains gloves, the little white gloves that you wear for handling photos, so that you don't get smudges on them, and help to protect them. It also contains folders and mylar sleeves that documents can be placed in. The backpack also contains oral history flashcards, which help you with questions during the interview. And it contains the memory card, which is a 32 gigabyte memory card that can be put into the Zoom recorder, because the one that comes with it is just 2 gigabyte. So this allows for you to capture more oral histories and have a longer time that you can use it. We also include thank you notes and stamps. This is a courtesy that you can do after you've had completed your oral history, just to send a thank you note to the interviewee to make them feel your appreciation for that time. The backpack also contains some accessories for the Zoom recorder. And these are the windsock to put over the mic, also the cord for connecting it to the computer, and a tripod stand to set it on, just to stabilize, and a power cord, that type thing. If you've ever asked anyone for information about their background, then you have initiated an interview. I like to just refer to that because we all have done little interviews of people that we know and want to know. What I want to stress is that an oral history interview should feel more like a discussion instead of an interrogation. You want it to feel more natural than a constant question. But there's no one way to do oral history interviews. Everyone will do things a little bit differently, and you can feel comfortable that you can do it anytime that you capture information about individuals that will be something lasting, a story that can be collected for that community. Then you have successfully done an oral history interviews. Just a second. Your goal in obtaining the oral history interview is generations from now, did you ask the questions that people will want to know in the future? And that you will want to always seek to follow up on questions and answers that are given, because that will capture those stories and things that we want to have answers to. Your oral histories become an invaluable resource. Oral history interviews, in this example, I wanted to just show that it's a very interactive process. This is showing how oral history interviews have an impact on what we know of the genealogy of that person, and provide a resource for researchers. So it's a participatory archiving method, meaning that the oral histories, the oral histories are a way for individuals to provide information about their community and preserve that information in the archive. So it's a way of individuals and communities collectively providing information about themselves and empowering them to do so. It's an invaluable tool again, and oral history interviews have a variety of uses. The interviews can be used as quotes, as stories, as research, as validation of research, as just hearing the person's authentic voice. Sometimes it's a very local accent or something that you're capturing also. And very frequently, you also gain genealogical material about that individual. Oral history interviews often come with references to photographs that the individual may share, or also documents that they will share. And this is preserved also, and maybe something that will require a gift agreement if the person is donating either the originals or a facsimile. Along with doing the oral history interviews, you need to make decisions on how this is going to be preserved. Is it going to be going to an archive, or is it for personal use, and that you will be keeping it for just a personal record? It might be that it's kept in the community, or it might be going to an institutional archive. And what about the possibility of doing transcriptions? That's also something that will come up. As I said, oral history interviews often generate information about genealogy. I often will ask a person how far back can they go with their heritage. And this becomes important for the present research, but future research. Maybe some of the heirs will love hearing these stories told from generations from the past. All of this then becomes new sources of research. It can be part of a collection and evidence of what this person knows about their past, and it can provide new insight. This in turn may be placed online or placed in other portals for the public. And so it then becomes a recycled where it again will generate other information and resources and research. To prepare for the interview, you want to learn as much as you can about the interviewee. You might ask for a bio or search online. A Google search will often bring up information about that individual. You might also go to an archive or a library to conduct research on the individual. If you're pursuing the family history of this individual, you might want to conduct some research on the genealogy and actually do a little ancestry search or a local repository search, which has maybe photos or clips from newspapers, or often local libraries will contain family records and information, and sometimes books of their heritage. You also, if it's community related, it might be something that you need to do some specialized research concerning the community and this family, so that you know what that history is and can refer to it. But with all of this, you need to prepare questions on, I like to put my questions on note cards, the 5x7 note cards, and these don't make as much noise as paper does, and it's easy to shuffle them so that that becomes an easy reference uh, source for you during the interview. I try not to look down at my notes as often or very often, so that the individual can feel that I'm really focusing on them. Again, like I said before, I don't want it to feel like an interrogation. I want it to feel more like a discussion or conversation. So I try to focus on the individual. And of course, one of the things that you do have to consider is obtaining a consent or permission form to do the interview, and then to place it into an archive or a community. It might be a community archive or an institutional archive, but you need to think about how this is going to be preserved and how where it's going to be archived, and that will maybe determine what type of consent form that you will need. A consent form, and this will be discussed more broadly during the Seedlings program, but I wanted you just to be aware that this is part of the process, that you will need to, before the interview starts, you will need to let the person read through the form. You will answer questions about that. And then we recommend at least the Oral History Association and the SOHP recommend that you get the consent form signed after the interview. This is allowing the person to decide at the end of the interview if they still feel comfortable signing the form. But beforehand, you do need to just go through that with them and make sure that they're comfortable with what their rights are and what rights they're granting to you and the institution that it will be deposited in. This provides informed consent, it provides transparency, and like I said, this is something that you do need to understand and help the interviewee understand. But that will be covered more later. And during the interview, these are certain techniques that will help you. Remember again that the interviewee is the focus. You don't want to prolong what you say. You want the interviewee to have most of the time to be talking. You don't want to interrupt during their answers, and allow for periods of silence while the person is thinking about something or trying to formulate their answers. A chronological method of doing the questioning is good, but you're going to find that the interviewee may at times deviate due to their flow of thoughts. And you may need to, after that answer, bring them back to where you want them to be in the chronology. You need to listen and follow up. So try to just note as they're talking things that you really want more of an answer for. This means that if it works for you, you can mentally remember those questions and that you have. But if you need to, feel free to jot it down. You want to ask broad questions, and that will lead to more expanded answers. And be open to hearing the disturbing and unpleasant content that a person may want to talk about. This is something that you have to just maybe approach carefully and be comfortable with a person saying that they aren't comfortable with giving you that answer. But provide an opportunity for them to talk about it if they want to, and sometimes they will want to talk about it. Ask for clarifications as needed. This is a general list of topics that can be covered during an interview. It's a broad list, and for a full oral history interview, you probably do want to cover a little bit of all of this, but often an interview is more focused. You might have a particular topic, a community goal, something that you're focusing on that you want to cover in an interview that is more limited than this list. And so there's a variety of ways to approach the questions. You may also be dealing with a local history topic and need to do research related to that topic so that you're asking that interviewee about how they were involved, to describe the event and to state who the leaders were, to tell what they know of the event. But capturing, always during an oral history interview, capturing those stories is so important. That is where the real value of an oral history lies in that. That's very useful for research. It's very useful for documentaries. It's useful for just knowing the occurrences in this person's life and the community. A variety of equipment can be used. The Zoom audio recorder is one of the tools, but you can also use audio-video recorders, such as video cameras, and also you can use your cell phone. And we're going to go through all of this a little bit at the end. If you're doing videotaping, you want to consider the lighting. It may be that you will be able to position the person near a window and provide enough light. It may be that you'll need to grab a lamp in the room and just set it beside that person. If the lamp is weak, I've often removed the lampshade or tilted the light, the lampshade, so that it provided a better lighting. But also, if this is videotaped, you want to look at the aesthetics of that and maybe put it where it doesn't show, or think about what is in the background of this person that you do not want to show, or how you want to situate them in the room. If this is videotaped, you will need a tripod. A tripod stabilizes the camera And you do want to do that. It makes it so much better for use later, for a documentary, for a presentation. Having a stable shot is key. But the tripod can also be used for just the audio recorder so that you can get it closer to the individual and that it's at a good angle. For a microphone, it's good to put the windscreen on. A windscreen is that foam little cup that goes over the microphone, but it can also be the fuzzy little windscreen that you sometimes see outside. The fuzzy ones are often used outside because they help with the winds that we have outside better, but the foam works also for outside. I will try to put something on, especially if it's close to the mouth, but also you need to consider if the room has an air conditioning vent or a heating vent that's blowing. Try not to be right under it, because even though you cannot hear that distortion, the microphone will pick it up and really distort your recording. It's probably good if you have one of those little plug-in microphone with earbuds or something that you can listen to your recording. At the beginning, you could use that to make sure that you have a good recording going. And I tend not to leave that on for myself, although I see people do it all the time, so that they can monitor it all through the recording. But I feel that that makes it feel less like a conversation and a discussion. So I tend to listen and then not use that. A lavalier is the little clip-on mic that you see used by the media, sometimes on TV. And so that's something else. A handheld microphone is something else that would be an additional piece of recording that, well, additional piece of equipment that's sometimes used with video recording. But of course, we have also the handheld Zoom recorder, but you can set that down. But key of all is to try to get a quiet location. You want to be as quiet as you can, or have as quiet of a spot as you can during your recording, so that it just makes a better quality. This is not always possible, and don't let that be something that stops you from doing the oral history interview. Just strive to do it if you can. We're going to go through some examples of oral history interviews just to help enhance your skills. I want you to listen to these as they play and consider the question. How do you start an oral history interview?
This is Kim Yogundaber with Dr. Brenda Armstrong. We are in her office in the conference room in the Duke South orange, purple zone.
You know what? I don't know. I think this is orange.
The orange zone in Duke South. So I wanted to start by asking you when you were born.
Yeah, I was born in 1949 in Rocky Mount, North Carolina.
Okay, we'll look at this. We recommend that when you start an oral history interview, you provide a date, the name of the interviewer, the name of the interviewee, the location, and anything of special note. Say you're doing it for this cause or that, you can state that. But primarily the date, the name of the interviewer, the name of the interview, and the location are great. What is missing with this introduction?
Okay, so this is Heidi Dodson, and I'm talking to Howard Allen and Eleanor Allen, and we're in Haytime, Missouri, and it's July 1st, 2012. So, Mr. Allen, you were telling me about the experience of Black farm owners in Kennesaw County.
I'm telling you the experience of everybody.
Okay.
What I wanted you to see here is that it's great to have the interviewee say his, her name so that you get them actually verifying their identity. It's also something that can be used in a production where they're introducing themselves, say for a documentary. And you also hear how they pronounce their name. So it's a good idea at the beginning to let them state their own name. What questions could you follow up with in this interview? So listen and we'll talk about this.
And where were you? Were you in the hospital or at home?
No, I was born at home. We had a birthing room in our home because we weren't allowed to use the hospital. So,
Can anyone think of any questions that they would have to follow up on that statement? You can feel free to unmute your mic if you think of something. Okay. I wanted you just to note that you can follow up with several things. They delivered at home. Do they know the midwife who delivered? Was it a doctor? Just any type of question can be asked to follow up with what is stated. Did someone have was somebody trying to ask a question there? Okay.
So Bernita, William asked, what did people do when they needed a doctor? Would be an example of a question.
Exactly. That's the type question of question, a follow-up question that could be given. So great, yeah. And you'll find that sometimes follow-up questions generate more answers and questions. So you'll need to just try to pay attention as they're giving their answers. We're going to do another one here. So let's see, listen to this one and see what follow-up questions this would generate.
So what influenced your decision to become a doctor or to go into medicine?
well, I had lots of reasons to naturally decide to do medicine, but I actually, even going to undergraduate school, had planned not to do that. I always enjoyed science and math and did well in science and math.
Did that,
And when she said she had lots of reasons, I didn't quite hear lots.
oh, okay. So this is just an example.
Right.
It's not anything we have to spend
Right.
time on, but maybe knowing what school she went to, or some of those other reasons. She was good at science and math.
Mhm.
Who was her best teacher, her favorite teacher? Did she have someone that impacted her decision to go into medicine? So there are any number of questions that you can, that as the person's given an answer, it might spark a question or it might not, but feel free to follow up on those questions that pop up. And the details may only be known by this individual. And so that is important for research reasons, and you can also gather stories from these answers that a person is providing. So all of that is important. So try to listen and follow up.
What I'm trying to do is to
This is, when does a question become an answer?
especially the consolidation attempt in in 1971. Let me just say for the record that I'm Bill Moy, and I'm talking with Senator Fred Alexander in his office at the Legislative Building on the 1st of April, 1975. My understanding as to your background is that you have been very active in Charlotte for a long period of time, number of years, both through the funeral home, but mainly as the manager of the Double Oaks apartment development, very active with your brother, Mr. Kelly Alexander, and then ran for city council in 65, served as mayor pro tem, I believe, 71, 72, ran to the Senate 72, and then elected last year in 74. Like I say, I'm concentrating on the consolidation issue. I'm wondering who raised it. Was it primarily the Chamber of Commerce who pushed the idea?
You mean original?
Yes.
Well, it was a combination of the city leadership. Some of it chamber-oriented, yes, that were the motivators back of our first attempt at consolidation.
Now, I know I let that go kind of long. I wanted you to just see how an answer, like a question that's that long and summarized often stifles the answer that's provided, and it also is leading. Raised primarily, providing the name of the place, who pushed, those are kind of leading that the answer that you are expecting. And so it's good to let the person really say it themselves. All of that could have been acquired through the person actually having been questioned. So try not to let a question become an answer. What is not beneficial?
I told her, I said, I was working on that village in 1990. I said, but it was kind of difficult for me. I said, I was the only person working on it at that time. It was difficult. I said, yep. I said, 1990, I had a total knee replacement.
Oh, that year. Really?
I said, in 91, I had my left knee total replacement. 2000, I had a hip replacement. 2006, I had a hip replacement total. I said, so right now, I have 4 digits. I mean, 4 of my anatomy is artificial that I work on that village.
What I wanted you to see here is that it's important to be silent during the answers. Those interruptions can break a train of thought. They can be difficult to edit out so that you have a clean presentation. And it's easy to give nonverbal support during an interview, and just using your facial expression or hand movements, anything like that. But try to be silent during your answers. What is the possible cause of the audio problems with this next recording? I'm not going to play the whole, but I wanted you just to hear that there are probably a number of problems with this audio, but sometimes it's recorded outside and there's wind noise that's distorting. It can be poor equipment, the microphone being too far away. Like I said, an air conditioning vent blowing near the mic can cause problems. And there can be noises in the surroundings, such as if you're recording while you're driving in a car. Like I said, you can use some earbuds, earphone devices to plug in to listen for distortion at the beginning, to just check for quality. And also, if you have a recording, you can also monitoring that you're picking up the audio by looking for meter fluctuation. Almost all recording devices will have a meter that fluctuates as you're talking. So for each interview, remember to be curious and to follow up. And most of all, be yourself. We all have our own way of doing this, and be comfortable with the way that you do it, because you can all do it. I know that that's very true. We're going to do a quick review of some of the equipment that we use to do oral history interviews here, but all of this is also available to you, the PowerPoints and instruction on using your equipment. There are 2 Zoom recorders that we have in our packs. One is the H1 and one is the H1N. And this is just a quick look at that. You will not need to memorize this because the instructions are provided. With each instruction, the PowerPoint or PDF, we have the quick start basic steps, which are yellow slides, and then the fuller part will be non-yellow, would be more instruction. But we go through the preparation of your recorder, how to record, how to play and delete, and how to transfer and store your files. And this is what it looks like. You'll be putting in memory card, you'll be putting in the battery, and you will need to set the dates and set the way it records. And it's easy if you just look at the slides and follow the instructions. This shows you how to do a recording. This shows you how to play and delete files, how to transfer and store. We recommend, although you can remove the small memory card, and because it's the small memory card, that would have to go into the adapter. And we recommend that you leave the memory card in the Zoom recorder and just use your USB cord and connect the Zoom to the computer. This will show up on your computer like any other external hard drive, and you will see your files there. You will simply need to copy and paste those into the storage on your computer, but you need to also change the name of your file so that you know the date and who was recorded, the interviewee, and possibly who did the interview. You can put that onto the file name. And then you will be deciding on who ultimately is going to archive these files and transfer them to that source. The H1N recorder has a different interface, but does the same thing. As I was telling you, the small memory card has an adapter, so that shows you what it is. And the adapter allows you to put that into your computer if it has that type port. But as I said, it's recommended just to use the USB cord. The Zoom recorder has also a quick start basic steps, the similar, putting in the memory card and the battery. This shows you how to turn it on and off, how to set the date and time, and how to, the record settings. This is also showing you that it's more of an electronic, a digital interface, but you'll be setting that. The low cut and the limiter settings. One thing is that on the first recorder, the H1, these are on the back of the recorder or just switches. But for the H1N, it's more electronic, so you'll be pressing up and down buttons to do the setting. And this just shows you the auto levels, and that's for audio, just setting it at a basic level. And again, more settings. This is just giving you an idea of what the screens look like for a recording, a playback, and for a pause setting. And that's one little screen, but it changes the way it looks. And again, setting the basic settings. The yellow box is not the settings that you want. You're going to want them to show, instead of 96 over 24-bit, you want it to be on 48 over 24. And then likewise, you'll be setting those off for the instead of on. This is how you record, how you play back, how you transfer and store, again, using the cord. And there are one-line YouTube videos for all of these recordings and recording devices. And so you can check there also. I want to quickly go through using a cell phone to capture an oral history. And this is useful because most of us have a cell phone, and it can be set to do either audio or audiovisual. We recommend that you stabilize your cell phone, so you will need to get one of those little cell phone holders that you see here to position your, or to clip to your cell phone, and then to put that onto the tripod. And that makes a very useful way of recording a video. It's stabilized and easy to position. There are a large number of tripods out there. You can look at Best Buy, you can look at Staples, Walmart, wherever. Some of these are so flexible that they will actually wrap around a pole so that you can have one positioned on something that's upright too. For audio visual, well, video files done on a cell phone, most of those have a default of the MP4 format, and this is a very common format for use on computers, websites, smart television, and whatever. It's easy to upload to YouTube, so you will not have to worry about that format. For audio recordings, we recommend that you download some software to do this. And the reason being, and there are many free softwares online, apps that you can download. The reason being is that you want to be able to capture a WAV file, and we'll go through that in a second. But here are just 3 on the top for an Android phone, and 3 on the bottom for an iPhone. And I use, personally, I have an Android Google Pixel phone, and I use the center top one, the voice recorder, and I find it very easy to use, and I really do like it. It's once you download it, you will see just that little red speaker on as your icon on your phone. And if you push that, you'll have the little interface to record, and you will just be pushing the red button and pressing it again to stop. So download that, and you need to make sure that you set your format. The most common 2 formats that are on all of these recording device apps are the MP3, which is the compressed file format, and the other is a WAV, which is the uncompressed format. And you want the uncompressed format. When a file is compressed, it loses data because it's sort of merging the files to make it a smaller file. So you're degrading the quality of your recording. So remember to set it for WAV format, and probably you will not have to set it again after it's set. It will default to its last setting. But there's more information on this out there if you want to check the link. For audio-visual interviews on a cell phone, once you have done the recording, you do want to preserve it. So you're going to be connecting the cell phone to your computer and transferring the file similar to the way that you did it with your Zoom recorder. Like I said, I have a Google Pixel, and I love it because my files go instantly to Google Drive, which will connect when I am connected to the internet. And so that's an easy way for me to transfer my files, and then those can then be downloaded to a source on my computer or wherever I choose. but these are choices that can be made. The audio interviews the same. You want to do that. So I have gone through a lot of material here, and I want to check in to see if you have any questions, and I will try to answer them.
Did you talk about transcription?
Just briefly, I did mention it, but transcription is something that's not an easy topic to deal with. I've tried using some of the tools that you can use, say through, I don't know, through Word or through Google or any of those that are set up to transcribe. But there are problems. There are problems because they don't pick up the punctuation. They don't always understand. And so those are not as easy to use. What happens also is that by the time you go through and correct everything, you might as well have transcribed it yourself. And so the other thing is that there are tools out there, like something you can plug into your computer that has a foot pedal, and that allows you to slow it up and to stop and start it while you're transcribing. And so that's another tool. But there are also companies out there that do transcription work. It's a more expensive process. And you'll find that, as we've been finding, is that they too can make some minor, some more problematic errors. So you often do have to proofread that. But in the end, we recommend that you also, once you have your transcription the way you want it, is to allow the interviewee to go through it and to make their corrections. Now, you aren't wanting them to correct what they said, but you're wanting them to make corrections to, say, a name is spelled wrong or something wasn't heard correctly. And so they are able to correct that and approve it before it goes into a repository.
The tool that you mentioned that helps you to slow it down, is that something that's accessible to purchase?
Yes, though that is something I will provide. I'll do some more research. I have a foot pedal, but I can't tell you the name of it, and I haven't used it in a while, although I should be, because I'm not a typist. And so, but
our technology people might know about that.
Yes, I'll check on that for you and get that information to you.
All right.
Are there other questions? I know I covered a lot. I hope that it was helpful to you.
Oh, yeah.
It's helpful, but it'll be helpful for us to review it again on our own.
Sure, sure. This will be available to you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Are there other questions? Can anyone think of anything else?
No, I think I'm good for now.
Okay, well, thank you for attending this, and I wish you all the best in capturing some oral histories. It's a fun process. Don't let it be stressful. Let it be fun. You're you're curious, and the person that's sharing, just it's sometimes so exciting to actually know that you're preserving someone's stories and histories, their family history for posterity. So just get started, go and do it. Don't be daunted by any of this technology, okay?
Okay.
And we're here to help you. And like I said, there are, there's going to be more about the consent forms and other things during your seedlings presentation. So that'll be covered more fully. So good luck to you, and thank you for attending.
And thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
You're
Everybody
welcome.
have a great afternoon.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.